My son went outside. The boys pulled up right behind our house. They shot him down in the alley. I mean, I was home. His brother was home. We found my son literally on the ground in the alley taking his last breath.
You got people still robbing, stealing, killing. Just the other day, a 5-year-old boy got killed, shot in the head. It's like it's never going to end. So if Mr. Trump want to bring these troops to Chicago, hey, bring them on. What we got to lose? You know what I'm saying? Put some fear in, let them know that they here and they want, to protect the city of Chicago. We got elderly people afraid to ride the red line. You got kids can't go outside and play. You got women don't want to walk at night alone. The migrants came here, baby. They had everything in the whole wide world they wanted.
Give you the shirt off his back, sweetheart. But they took my little baby.
Hey, this is really a national disgrace. Welcome back. That was the mother and grandmother of Gregory Wilson III. Their 16-year-old son and grandson was shot and killed in Chicago. These parents are saying Chicago crime is now much worse than when they were growing up. And they're begging President Trump to send in the National Guard, send in their troops. But their Democrat governor, J.B. Pritzker, and socialist mayor, Brandon Johnson, say crime is not a problem. Chicago is the homicide capital of America. Joining us now, Chicago Red founder P. Ray Easley. P. Ray, thank you so much for joining us again tonight. What do you make of what you just heard? Because the former chief of the Chicago police said that Pritzker and Brandon Johnson are afraid Trump is going to humiliate them, given how successful Trump was in bringing down crime in D.C.
I totally agree. Billions of dollars have flowed through the city of Chicago in terms of violence prevention and crime stopping. However, we still have people like poor Gregory who are shot down in alleys. I think that although crime is statistically down, we should still ask for the help because we should get the number to 0 rather than a 30% decrease. As you can see here, people brazenly commit heinous acts of violence in broad daylight here in the city of Chicago because there's no deterrent against committing the crimes, because in the Cook County State's Attorney, they plead people down in order to keep a high conviction rate, so people know that they're going to go to jail and come right back home.
This is no respect for human life. These families are destroyed. They've lost their son and grandson forever. I mean, here's the thing, P. Ray. Chicago did a Trump-style surge a decade ago to stop crime in 2016. Extra Chicago cops, U.S. Marshals, BATF agents. Crime dropped 41%. So can Pritzker and Johnson fix crime in Chicago without Trump?
I think that they could if they wanted to, but remember, this narco-terrorism is making almost $2 billion a year off of the heroin highway, which flows through the middle of the 7th Congressional District. So if we have a parallel economy that's adding billions of dollars to the streets, then we can ascertain that people are actively complicit in what's going on. Now, I'm not saying that the governor is working with the cartels, but somebody has to be making deals somewhere along the line, because we can definitely draw all of this back to the open border and the criminality that came across that border in terms of drug trafficking and human trafficking.
Well, this is something that U.S. Attorney Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, FBI director, could get on. Let's get your reaction to what Barack Obama's former top advisor, David Axelrod, has said about this. And listen to conservative political pundit Ben Shapiro. Listen to what they're saying.
I would be careful about playing 28 politics on this issue, because the right answer is we'll take all the help we can get, as long as it's appropriate help, as long as it's stuff that will really help. Send us the resources that we need. We want to work with you. If there are people doing violent crimes here who are illegal immigrants, we want them out of our city. We'll work with you on that. I think that's the appropriate position to take.
But if the position you end up taking is that there is no serious crime emergency in Chicago on a rhetorical level, not on a legal level, on a rhetorical level, or you make the case that actually crime in Chicago just isn't that big of a deal, which seems to be the mistake that many Democratic politicians are making right now, Trump is going to win that battle all day long.
I also want to focus on the reality, like the actual things that are happening. You ask them in polls and they say, we think crime is a problem. We don't like the way Trump is handling it in the way that he is sending the National Guard. They want Trump to do more about crime. They don't necessarily want him to send troops to cities.
Let's do a reality check on that. Just hang on a second. An AP NORC survey found 55% of Americans say it is acceptable for the U.S. military and National Guard to assist local police in major cities like Chicago. P. Ray, let's back up. There have been 100,000 violent crimes in Chicago since 2020. There have been 6,400 people shot in Chicago under Mayor Brandon Johnson. So can they continue to fight Trump more than they're fighting crime in Chicago and Illinois?
They're following the Democratic National Convention's playbook, which is anti-Trump at every level. They would rather get a win against the president than actually working hard to make sure that the citizens are safe. Last week, approximately 1 week ago, an illegal from Venezuela gunned down 2 teenagers in the back of Tilden High School after he stalked them and shot them in a random act of violence. That child would still be alive if our governor and our mayor took the help seriously and allowed ICE and the National Guard to come up here and dismantle this narco terrorism. They would not allow Al Qaeda to exist like this in the city of Chicago. So why does the Mexican drug cartel get to exist as a terrorist organization protected by the legislators in this town? It does not make any sense, and that's why we are begging for the federal help, and we thank you, President Trump, for keeping your word to us.
Great points, great insights from P. Ray Easley. P. Ray, you were terrific tonight. So smart. Thanks for coming on. It's great to see you.
Okay, so I want to get you guys' reaction to that clip, and what do you guys think about the National Guard coming into Chicago, DC, and Black communities throughout the nation, whether it's New Orleans? He did mention he wanted the National Guards there. So, Gray, you go first.
I don't agree with it. I don't think it's sustainable to send the military to like do law enforcement's job in a city. I think we have plenty of law enforcement agencies, the FBI, local law enforcement that can do the job that they are expecting the military to do. Not only that, shout out to P. Ray, but we're just talking in generic terms of what's going on in Chicago. There's a big drill scene music in Chicago, and there's a big issue with gangs when we talk about the Black community. Specifically, when we talk about King Von, he was a very famous rapper. He was known for saying, "I'm not from 63rd." I think this young man died around this area because, you know, they're a part of the Gangster Disciples, and then they talk in their music about crimes that they actually committed, deletions they actually committed. And that's really the root cause of what's going on in Chicago. So if we have law enforcement actually getting with these young guys and, you know, talking and doing real preventative maintenance, we don't need the military to get involved.
All right. So do anybody want to rebuttal, Gray?
I do, because, you know, I know people from Chicago that have been actively engaged with what is happening in their local government and what is happening in their communities. We know P. Ray, but I also know the ladies from Chicago Flip Red that have been explaining how not only have they had an influx of immigrants, illegal immigrants, which is crime, right? And the government, city and local government is protecting these illegal aliens, and the crime rate is increasing. So I don't think it's about the gangs anymore. I don't think it's about the drill music anymore. I think there is an infiltration in the American government on the state, local, and federal level that is supporting criminal activities, from human trafficking to trafficking drugs and guns and all of that good stuff. And these people are innocent, and they are having to go through all of these challenges because their local government is allowing this to take place. They're not protecting the citizens, point blank, period. If they're asking for help, and I know that these women and men have been going to City Hall, they literally threw them out of a City Hall meeting the other day and was censoring them and didn't want them to speak. These are citizens, but they got some students to come from another university that doesn't live in the neighborhood, right? White liberal students from DePaul to come speak. Like it's time for Trump to get there and do what he has to do, but not only just help with the crime. He needs to go further and begin to get evidence and start prosecuting these state and local officials, politicians. I think that's where it's headed. And I know that's what the ladies of Chicago Flip Red have been doing or working toward since the beginning of the year, when they also supported Trump for president and him getting into office. They've been asking for this for a while.
Can I chime in?
Jupiter.
Go ahead, Roland, and I'm
Go ahead.
gonna probably get long-winded with this, but go ahead, Roland.
Yeah, I definitely want to chime in on this. We got to look at it from a historical lens too. The military has liberated and worked with Negroes and Black American people. We can look at the Union soldiers after the Civil War during the Reconstruction era. So this is not the only time that the military has came into our communities to give us support. And the military did support us from domestic terrorists such as the Ku Klux Klan during that time frame as well, during the Reconstruction era. So when I look at these other immigrant groups that are coming in, yes, they are human trafficking, bringing drugs, bringing weapons and stuff of that nature. One of the agencies that should have been combined with ICE should be ATF and ICE in these joint type of situations, and we don't hear them as active to combat when it comes to bombs, explosives, and also illegal use of firearms. The other thing I do want to discuss is the fact that it's a sanctuary city. So these guys are in the interest of protecting immigrants over the people that are actually here in the United States who are tax-paying citizens who do not come over here illegally. So those are just some of the things I just want to throw out there from a historical lens all the way up to a modern day.
Okay. So I'm probably the only vet or former serviceman on this panel. So I'm probably get long-winded, so I'm probably all over the place. So if anyone does not know the role of the National Guard or the Reserve, they're citizen soldiers, and I want you guys to take that concept. They're ordinary citizens that come from other professions such as law enforcement, doctor, dentist, veterinary, what any civilian profession there is. Their role is they serve two masters, the state governor, which is like the president of each state, and then the president. Their job is to be a force multiplier and work with local and state officials. They do not have arresting powers due to the Posse Comitatus Act. Now, they can detain and assist with local law enforcement or state law enforcement and have that be. So, and another aspect is the National Guard serves for natural disasters, any civil unrest, which they're trained to do, and they have rules and ROEs, which is rules of engagement and what they're allowed to do. So, and then there's other catastrophes like natural disaster, biochemical. You would want the National Guard in there or some type of federal uniforms in there. The guy, Mr. Rowland said, the ATF, which I don't like, but the ATF and U.S. Marshals should be in there. But that is the role of the National Guard or Reserve, to be in there. That's their job to serve. They are citizen soldiers, so they create that force multiplier in there. So now let's go to the Black community. And Mr. Gray or Mr. Martz, I'm going to touch on that point. So you said the police should be in there doing it proactive. So let's think Chicago. If they were doing their job, and if it wasn't a sanctuary city, the National Guard would not be forced to going up in there if they were doing that proactive approach. Now, I'm not saying they haven't been doing it and have not been doing it. It's just they need more manpower than they need to. And if they were doing a police job, it's going to be that double-edged sword. So say if they're over policing every cop could, like I said, it could be good or bad. What would be an incident where it will create another, I would hate to say, a George Floyd or a black person getting shot? That would be another double-edged sword that you still have to look at. But all the thing is, the National Guard is a force multiplier. They're there to protect federal buildings, to assist and aid with the three-letter government agencies, local and state law enforcement. They do not have arresting authorities. They can detain. Detain and arrest are two different things. Detain is only temporarily, and it's a little bit gray, until you get arrested. Now, arrested, that's when you're getting sent up. But, and I'll land my plane with this. Illinois is a sanctuary state, which that's another issue Trump has to deal with. And then, the violence has always been catastrophe. The National Guard has been put in there in other places in civil unrest, like think of Watts, then LA. Then there was another incident in DC in the 90s. I think I sent Dana, there was one in DC. The National Guard has been in there to combat crime and be a force multiplier. So that is notion of itself on what it is. National Guard and reserves are citizen soldiers. They do go to basic training like everybody else, and they deploy just like it. But they do two roles, domestically and overseas. And then you can ask me questions if you want. Though, go ahead.
Can I respond, Dana? First off, Jupiter, I served myself. Thank you for your service. And I was in the National Guard. And like you said, these people work a regular job. They only go 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. First off, the financial implications of making these soldiers active. You now have to pay them a full paycheck.
Correct. TPU soldiers, yes, correct.
Secondarily, is President Trump. He's at the federal level. He's the executive branch. It's the governor's job to activate the National Guard. And so like you're saying that these people are being activated to go do these things, but I'm saying the police should do this because how long can a National Guard really be there? You can have them down there, and I'm pretty sure that people will stop doing crime. But if, like I said on my YouTube, if I am a criminal and my job is deleting and robbing people, you don't think the criminals watch the news? I'm going to take a break while the National Guard is there. And then once they're gone, I'm going to get back to business.
And you're correct. It's just like Afghanistan. But let me ask you this question. You do know the president is the commander in chief. He can federalize. I don't know if you went to basic and all that stuff. You went through the Federal Act of 107 or something, whatever it is. I don't know the number, but you can get federalized to go, say, if you was in, I don't know what state you're in, if he was in the National Guard, say if he was in Virginia, he can federalize you to go to the border or any other state. That president has that power. You do know that, to do that. Even to send you to the border, even if you had to deploy overseas, he has the power to federalize you to send you overseas or anywhere abroad. You do know that, right?
Yes, but what I'm telling you is that that's a Band-Aid on a massive situation. So yes,
and you are correct on that one. Yes, you're correct, and it's not the end all be all silver bullet. So we don't. This is just a process. I don't know.
But what about the people, the community that is saying, "Hey, we are seeing some."
Oh, so he went out.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
Can I respond to that? Because why she's getting her stuff together. So one of the things is the reason why he's sending the military there is because some of the crimes in which some of these criminals are engaging in may be out of the scope of regular traditional police criminality, right? So like when you talk about high-powered weapons, when you're talking about human trafficking, human smuggling through multiple countries and stuff like that, these are things that are very dangerous, that may be out of the scope of a normal police department. They might not have the resources or even the skills to even combat these type of situation. When you start looking at some of these gangs and some of these mafias and criminal syndicates, they have access to like basically military or paramilitary personnel coming out of Mexico, coming out of even some of these AAPI countries. So Mexican people are not the only people that were crossing the borders that were military age. They had a huge influx of Asian immigrants as well. And these individuals could be possibly trained. And they might be even more skilled than your regular law enforcement agency. So these are some of the things that I could see as a potential problem. But I also want to acknowledge you, sir, as well. Thank you for your service as well, because you're a Black veteran. I know that ain't easy, brother. It ain't easy. And I've seen you guys get busy. So salute to you on that, man.
Appreciate it.
Now, Jap, you live in Chicago, born and raised in Chicago, and you and a whole bunch of other residents there want to see the National Guards. So do you, and we did the show the other day, you think that it would definitely help the community in Chicago?
Yeah, because I think about my grandmother. God bless her. You know, she's passed on, transition, but a lot of our grandmothers can't walk down these blocks, you know, because there's no structure with the gangs and none of that no more like how it used to be. When we was younger, we was taught to open the doors for old ladies. We was talking to, women and children. We make sure we aid and assist and make sure they get to where they got to go. So like when we look at the blocks now, the blocks is reckless. So I'm not against it. You know, I'm a grown man. I pay taxes. I'm a homeowner. I own property. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I really understand the dynamic of actually bringing someone out here to bring law and order into a city that I actually live in. So a lot of people on the outside looking in, they ain't like, yeah, it's not that bad. No, it's crazy. It's crazy out here. It's really crazy out here, like for real. Like my gun went off 2 times this year. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really crazy out here. You know what I'm saying? And you know,
let me read the super chat real quick. Thank you, David. He says Chicago has 11,000 police. Spending more money on National Guard will do what?
Well, here's the thing. If you look at that situation that happened in Minneapolis, if the National Guard would have been patrolling and doing what they was doing, it only been one casualty, that motherfucker. You see what I'm saying?
So I'm sorry. I wanted to respond to that super chat. You got to keep in mind that 11,000 officers are spread throughout, and it's depending on the departments. Some departments are rural, where they have less officers, and then some of them are in metropolitan cities, where there are more officers that are there, and they're stationed there. So we got to keep it realistic that in the higher populated areas, there's going to be more law enforcement agents or officers that are patrolling those areas. And again, are they skilled enough to go against a paramilitary force?
I don't want to be extra articulate about this. I'm gonna tell you what it really is, because I really live here and I really know what's going on. Cops are scared to be cops. When I was young, coming up in the 90s, the 2000s, cops would beat your ass. You know what I'm saying? That's because the body cams and all these camera phones and all that, they are scared to actually police. So, and then when you throw in what Lori Lightfoot threw in, where they can't pursue, they can't chase, they can't run down on an assailant. So like if somebody is running from them, they can't chase them. They it's more of a liability. They're more scared of getting a lawsuit and more scared of getting a case for trying to defend a neighborhood and trying to actually police and actually, get at a criminal. They're scared of the criminals. So the criminals got more rights than most civilians. So the civilians is running around here. Your grandmama going down, she want to go to Walgreens, go get a prescription. She might get robbed. You know what I'm saying? She might get mugged or whatever like that. If she pops somebody, she gonna be going on trial. And that's the crazy thing about Chicago right here. So like you gotta understand, like the youngins is really going crazy out here. They going, it's a free for all. You know, when you look at downtown Chicago, the Magnificent Mile. Magnificent Mile used to be beautiful. If you from my town and you really roll down there, everything boarded up, is bogus. It looked crazy. It looked like Gary, Indiana. So like you go down there, they down there tearing everything up, and these is kids. You know what I'm saying? And dude, what's the name? Brandon Johnson, he allowing a lot of these things to happen. So like, and he's defending these people. You know what I'm saying? So like the civilians who really are tax-paying people who pay property tax and really, contribute to the city, we don't got no rights and we don't got no say so. So that's what it is out here.
Let me answer. Let me get to that super chat right quick because I find it really disingenuous. Okay, yes, they're weekend warriors, and I finished my reserve time. But a lot of that whole notion of weekend war, National Guard and Reserve, they have to keep up with the same standards as regular active duty. So they're balancing the multiple lives. They have to keep up with their basic soldiering or basic military drills and doing combat rotations to stay up to par of active duty.
Yeah, they got to do PT.
Yeah.
They got to do PT.
They have to,
like
so I've done it. So
they got to do everything. They got to do PT.
Exactly. I've done it.
They are soldiers, but they are the domestic soldiers. And a lot of people don't understand that National Guard is your domestic soldiers when the people become unrest and the people are not under control by the police, and that's when you have to bring them in.
Well, let me finish this. I was going to go, and I just want to answer that one, but and I was going to go back to Mr. The guy in the bottom who said he was in the National Guard. It's not going to be the end all be all. This is just a pressure test to see what happens right now. A lot of your guys' problem in Chicago is an internal one, and my MOS was in the civil affairs, so I was always a force multiplier meeting with elected officials just to build their forces up and all that stuff, to work with local government, to be a liaison. A lot of your problems are internal. What you guys been voting in for the past, God knows, 50 since Al Capone, for God's sakes. This is an internal thing that you guys got to fix. The National Guard, whether you bring it from in-state or out of state, it's just not going to. They're just going to be there, but they'll have to leave. But this is an internal thing, an in-house thing you guys got to fix. From your elected officials, from your aldermen, I guess you guys got them aldermen and all that stuff. This is where you guys got to fix it.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Where are you from?
I'm from Virginia, but
you're from Virginia. You live in Virginia. You're not showing your face, and you're speaking about a city that you don't know, and you've never been here. I'm on the land. I can go out here.
I'm not trying to be disingenuous, Jack. I'm just trying to
go to these blocks.
Let him finish what he was saying.
Okay, I'll land my plane with this. I'm not trying to be disingenuous. Now, I don't know your policy. I'm not from there. I've been to Chicago Porter, I guess 95th and West, but look, a lot of your problems come from internal. Just like if you would go overseas, we'll say Afghanistan. The reason why the Tallywag walked up in there is after we trained the Afghan for the past 20 years, it's an internal problem. Just like any other country that has their own civil war, and I'm not saying Chicago has a civil war, it's an internal thing. Until you fix your own house, it's always going to be the same thing over and over again. And I'm not trying to be disingenuous, and I'll give the mic and floor to you.
Yeah, I agree with what Jupiter is saying, because even the mayor, he signed an executive order telling the police to stand down, do not cooperate with the National Guard. Let me finish.
Our mayor is not from Chicago. Our mayor is from.
I get it. Let me finish. So, and also Trump, not only will he send in the National Guards, he may send in special agents, because those are the ones that will actually do investigating, arresting, laying hands on people if necessary. But the National Guard's coming in to really allow ICE to do their job, because ICE is having a problem in these sanctuary cities with local police and with the administration basically trying to make it harder for ICE to go, whether it's in a home, schools, or workplaces, to pull out the illegals. And I did hear that Trump is setting up ICE detention somewhere in Chicago and Illinois. I believe that was announced this week as well. And thank you again, David, for the super chat. Go ahead, Jack.
No, what I'm saying is that, like, I get it. Looking on the outside looking in, yeah, Chicago is messed up. Chicago do got a lot of problems. Chicago is messed up because of the politics, and the politics have been liberal. And when you look at the dynamic of them taking tearing down the projects. And you got to understand, Chicago had a lot of projects. Chicago had probably just the amount of projects as like Queens. Like Queens got a lot of projects, I heard. Like they got the biggest projects in America, I heard. You know what I'm saying? Like we had a lot of projects. All them projects got bulldozer and all these people that spread out. But you got to understand, Chicago is a gang bang city. So like everybody out here is blessed into a gang. We don't get jumped into no gangs and nothing like that. You get blessed in. That's a family. It's a blessing. So you're gonna get blessed in or whatever you is. So it's everywhere and it's spread it all over the city. Now it's really not gangs. There's no structure because there's no chiefs. We used to have chiefs. We used to have chiefs. We used to have governors. We used to have
yeah, but wait, even when because I don't want to go down a whole gang history here, but when I did have gangs, whether you had chiefs or not, Chicago was a shithole because poverty was high and you still had crime. It's it may not have been. It was probably organized crime, but you still had crime.
It was under control. So now it's not under control because there's no chiefs. All the chiefs is gone. Ain't nobody got no chiefs. If you ask anybody, one of these, who your chief is, they can't name who their chief is.
But if the National Guard, special agents, even ICE, when they come in your city, then dismantle all this gang stuff. Because I don't care if you have chief or not, it's still a criminal organization.
I'm for the National Guard coming out here. They ain't got no handcuffs. They kicking ass. Back in the early 2000s, the 90s and all that, that's when the cops used to really kick our ass. Like, if you really did some crazy shit on the block, they would, they could whoop you. And you wouldn't, it wasn't no camera phones and all that craziness. Now it's different. So they really scared to like police the block. I'm not gonna lie to you. You gotta whoop our ass.
One thing is,
can I respond to that?
Go ahead, Mr. Rowland. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, they weren't never doing their job correctly in the first place in Chicago or any metropolitan area when it comes to law enforcement because of their corruption.
What year?
Like brother, we could point to any year when it comes to Chicago, New York, LA. Pick any major metropolitan city. There's a level of police corruption in how they treat our community. It's a fact, man.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When they had stop and frisk in New York, things was better.
No, it was not, because these cops were oppressive. They were stealing money from the people, a whole bunch of other things that they were doing. And there were no distinction without a difference between a law enforcement agency who's supposed to be good in our community, who are acting just like the criminals with some regard. So no, that's not good. That's not good policing. That's not good. That's not creating safe neighborhoods where people can walk up and down the streets and be safe, because you want people to go to law enforcement when there's something wrong. And if people don't want to go to law enforcement because they're going to steal from you or that they're going to abuse their rights, then what's the point of having them? That's crazy. So you got to be really honest and be historically accurate when you have these type of conversations, man.
And when I talk to people from Chicago,
and stand on that.
Well, when I talk to people from Chicago, they say a lot of the guns came from the
brother.
Chicago.
You can Google me, man. I've been to your space. I have no problem with you, Minister Jack.
I have no problem. I have no problem with you. I just feel like if a brother gonna be passionate about what he's saying, just turn your camera on and stand on it.
What does having a camera on or not has?
Yeah, this is weird, man. This ain't your panel. This is Dana's panel, brother.
That has swayed me.
All I'm saying, everybody could yell from the pews.
Okay, so that has swayed me.
Ain't nobody yelling at you.
Going to say that I've heard many of people speak about Chicago and how the guns got on the street in Chicago. It wasn't because they were actually going and purchasing.
It's the Mexicans.
Well, and that's exactly P. Ray's talking point, that you have the cartels infiltrating your local state politics, and now look at your communities. And then Chicago is a sanctuary city.
I've always been vocal on my channel about how the Mexican community is the Taliban to black people.
Okay, so then good. Now we have where many in the community are saying, Trump, come get them. And because illegal immigration is crime, right? So to me, it's a win-win situation, because you're gonna have to do something about your local and state government at the end of the day, because they're in bed with them. It's obvious. And you got human trafficking increasing in the United States, especially our people coming up missing, and they're in your neighborhoods. So
I'm gonna give y'all some real. It's a place in Chicago called Little Village, 18th Street. Mexican people out there getting fake driver's licenses, fake social security cards, all that, all down that whole strip. And they moving and they doing their thing. And they've been doing it for years. Now,
but you're going to allow it as American citizens? You're going to sit back and allow them to come in, infiltrate, and destroy your society?
I'm not allowing it. I put it on blast every chance I get. I don't give a shit about these Mexican motherfuckers.
I'm saying the F word.
What I want to say is, like, Jap, I feel like you're kind of like just saying, okay, this is this huge issue. We just have to have the police lay the hammer down. This is organized crime. These are criminals. Are some of the smartest people out there. So you're saying the Mexicans is like the Taliban and black people. The Mexicans are the people who give the products to the black people to distribute.
Yeah, a nigga like, real talk, man. I sold dope before, but if a nigga really selling dope for real, you ain't selling dope unless you met a Mexican.
Dana with the data. Dana with the data.